Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. And if you see me cover up any of the cards, it's because there's quite a lot of nudity in here, and that is enough to fall foul of YouTube's policies. So rather than deface the cards, to cover up the offending articles, I'm just going to use something to cover them up instead. So if you see me do that, that's what that's about. Other things to know, if the reading resonates with you, then there will be an extended that you can access at the end via the first link in the description box beneath this video. The second link in that same description box will take you to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to the extended content for all the signs for no cost beyond that of the membership fee, and hang out with an extraordinary group of people. I'm quite sure I would not have got through 2024, she says, we've still got some months left, without their assistance. So really sterling group of people. If that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Right, Cancer. Let's flip you around and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Cancer, please? Oh, there's the first one. We have the Hermit in reverse. What about current energy for Cancer, please? Whoa, goodness. Goodness, I've got cards erupting everywhere. Okay. We have the 6 of Cups in reverse and the 2 of Wands in the upright. Very fitting, I think. And what about what's coming towards Cancer for October, please? What do we need? There we go. We have the 7 of Wands. Interesting. We have the 2 of Cups at the bottom of the deck, which is somewhat, well, suggests that relationships are of an intense source of focus for you at this point. But remember that the 2 of Cups is the energy that underpins the entire reading as the shadow card here. So it's like whatever else is going on, it's kind of being viewed through the lens of the relationships that you are experiencing at the moment, whether for good or for ill. I think for the most part, it seems to me, looking at this here, that actually these relationships are proving to be very good for you. And I should point out that by relationships, we are not restricting that purely to the sexual, to the intimate. We're talking about all relationships on all levels. It's people that you feel a kinship for, shared goals, shared visions for the future. We can be talking about business partnerships as much as anything else, and everything in between. So let's get some clarifiers on the table and see what this is about. Tell me about the Hermit card, please. Goodness me. We have the Judgment card. We have the Page of Swords. And we have the 7 of Pentacles. Tell me about the 6 of Cups and the 2 of Wands, please. 4 of Swords on its side. The Tower, Lord, and the Fool. Wonderful. Like it very much. Tell me about the 7 of Wands, please. We have the 3 of Swords on its side. Fucking metric fuck ton of cards there trying to come out. Let's give them a second. 2 of Swords in reverse. I feel like I want one more card for that, please. Thank you. That's 2. We've got the High Priestess in reverse and the Hanged Man in reverse. And there's a very clear message that is coming through from that actually we're seeing right the way through all of here. So without much ado, let's get on with this, because there's an awful lot of energy on the table, right? It's not too many more cards than I would usually draw, but we can see how there's an awful lot going on in amongst the energy of all of these cards. Oh, fucking night, this is just neat good. Right, hang on. Let's shuffle those over. Right, that's better. So, I should say, before we start, that the energy of the Hermit and the Hangman and the High Priestess all seem to me to be very, very closely related, in so much as there is a thread that started over here that is being carried through over here. And we'll explore what those are when we get to those cards. But it's very important that, for me, that I make sure that you understand that High Priestess in the reverse is not a bad thing. The Hangman in reverse, not a bad thing here. They're all speaking to something that is very strong and is rippling right the way through this reading. So we start with that Hermit. And the Hermit, when he shows up in the upright, he's talking about the internal journey. It's a card that can quite often speak to a degree of solitude, not loneliness, and that's important. It's the internal journey of discovering ourselves and the wisdom that exists within us, right? So there's something introspective about the energy of the Hermit when he goes looking for the answers for things inside of himself. When he shows up in the reverse, it's like an emergence. It's coming out of, whatever tunnel complex or cave complex, the internally speaking, the Hermit has been investigating with his lamp. It's like, right, we've done enough of that introspection inside. Now it's time to start actioning what we have learned, what we've put together, what we've synthesized into some sort of external expression. Now, for some people, this could be about allowing all of the things that have come up to kind of come together to inform their worldview, and that for me is the Ace of Swords right there. I mean, it can be about epiphanies and creative ideas and all that kind of thing. But because the sword suit represents the mind and communication, and there is a novelty in the Ace of Swords, we're talking about a whole new worldview that has been informed with new information. Now, the Hermit says there is no new information. Everything that you need to know is within you. But it's the way that we put it together. There's this kind of creative synthesis of things that change the way that we view reality, right? So we've got those two talking to each other in synthesis. Like it comes down to synthesis. Like the things that we didn't see before that now we do see them, it's changing everything. But as part of that, what we need to do is kind of look around at our external world and see whether it is in alignment with the kind of life that we want to live. Now, it's about taking all of that wisdom that you found within, all of the conclusions that you come to, and asking yourself how it is that your external world could now be a reflection of what you have found within, right? So we have the Judgment card, we have the Page of Swords, and we also have this Seven of Pentacles here. Now, this Judgment card can speak to big, life-changing decisions. It's not about the things that happen at us, it's the things we decide to do in light of all of the new information. The interesting thing here is that the Page of Swords is still in a state of feeding this decision-making process. It doesn't feel like it's one-off decision that is made that completely changes your life. It's like there's one thing after another, or so it has felt. And each new revelation, each new point of creative synthesis that we reach changes ever so slightly everything that we see, and it brings more information in. Like this feels like it's been a point of a period of great expansion for you, Cancer, as you're starting to see things in the world that you did not see before. Perhaps it is in terms of how it's possible for you to live versus what you thought reality was and how you had to live, right? It's kind of like, well, actually, I could do it differently. I could do all sorts of things differently. But perhaps it's other things, like the degree of joy and excitement that's available to you. Maybe it's areas of life where you felt stuck and trapped, that now you're starting to see, they're just simply aspects of your life that are not really in alignment with where you want to go next. And we're seeing that here in the Seven of Pentacles. Now, I really like the Seven of Pentacles for the reflective quality that it contains. It's kind of, this dude is leaning on his hoe. And whilst the subject matter may not be the best, in so much as he's looking at what he's put all of this time and attention and effort into, and he's like, well, it's not really giving me the dividends that it was supposed to. I'm not really getting the result from this that I wanted. So now I'm arriving at a place where change is essential. It's absolutely necessary for me to reach the next stage, but what is the kind of change that needs to happen? And the Seven of Pentacles for me being very environmentally based, it's that point where we kind of stop and look around and go, do you know what? I don't really like that's happening over there. I don't really like how I feel about this thing over here. And it's like, well, actually, it's possible for us to change all of these things. Now, the fact that the Seven of Pentacles has shown up in the upright means that I think in this last wee past period, it is not that you have struck upon the answer or how to, eliminate all that is uncomfortable and not in alignment with you from your life, replacing it instead with all of those things that are magnificent. But instead it's kind of noticing those discrete places and why they don't feel quite right, and this is good because this is putting you in the position whereby I think you're arriving at a point where decisions need to be made. Now, this is your current energy here. We have the Six of Cups in reverse and we have the Two of Wands. And there's something really very powerful just in those two cards there. Right? Let's not look at these here for a second. Let's just remove those entirely from the view, right? Let's look at these. Because what is significant about this is that when the Six of Cups shows up in reverse, there is a commitment to not returning to the past. Right? The Six of Cups is all about the past in all of its different variations. We can be talking about stuff that happened a long time ago. We could be talking about your childhood. We could be talking about, your experience as a child. Or we could be going back as far as past life stuff. There's something kind of ultimately nostalgic about the presentation of the upright Six of Cups for me. Sepia tone glasses and all that kind of thing. When it shows up in the reverse, it's like the past is the past and I refuse to live there anymore. I refuse to replicate the cycle that sees the past coming up in some way or another to me, in my experience, and we're not interested in repeating cycles, right? But it's also a recognition that maybe the past wasn't all that. When it shows up in its upright, like I said, it's got this feeling of nostalgia about it. And, the early, was it early Victorian? I think it probably was early Victorian. Meaning of that word was not simply a case of feeling like, the good old days, things were a bit better back then, It was actually a pathological need for the past. Right, for all of the things such that, it would invoke nausea at the thought of, having to be in the present. It's really interesting. And over time, the severity of the feeling of that card has diminished. And it's kind of like, everybody says things were better in, I don't know, if you're my age, people say things were better in the 90s. I mean, it was true. But equally, if you talk to people who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s, they will tell you that it's some decade long since gone that was better. Now, I'm not saying they're not wrong, because they might well be right. But it's this position that you have taken that is extremely mindful and very, very conscious, that says, like, no matter what, I am A, opening up to new experiences, B, not interested in repeating the cycles of the past, and C, just ready. There's a readiness about you here, right? And when you combine that with this Two of Wands here, which really does speak about the crossroads moment, right? What we have is a sense that you are reaching not just a little crossroads, but actually quite a big crossroads in your life, where the possibility of the replication of cycles from the past is simply not present, let alone the reality of replication of cycles from the past. This is a big turning point that you are at right now, and this is huge. So we have the Four of Swords here, and the Four of Swords talks about, amongst many things, healing. For some people it can represent funerals and things like that. And both the Four and Five of Swords, people that I know, represent funerals. But because it follows on from the Three, this is how it comes to mean healing, right? It's that kind of detachment, that kind of moving back. But this card is changing, right? So no longer are you, withdrawn in some sense or another while you are undergoing the process of healing, whether that's from one specific event or from a childhood full of, multiple events. CPTSD is not uncommon amongst cancers, and having listened to some of your life stories, you can see how that has happened anyway. But I do get the sense that this Four of Swords is actually on the turn, right? So we've gone from here, which is an objective recognition of what has been painful and what has hurt, and the need for healing and all that kind of thing. Moving to here, which is taking us, I think, to here. It's not there yet, but it's very, very close. And I would say all the requisite conditions for this to turn are actually almost complete for you. But then in strolls the Tower and the Fool. Now there is something here that is breaking you away from everything, Cancer. For some of you, it may well be that you are ready to literally relocate yourself somewhere, and what's, having come to the conclusion that it's time to go, the crossroads of this may, at least on the face of it, be, so where do I go? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to head? What am I going to do? There's a freedom and a liberation that comes along with the Fool, but is also kind of baked into the idea of the Tower, because the Tower takes us from where we are and sends us in a different direction. A literal relocation of self with these two cards here would not be unusual. It wouldn't be an off-the-wall interpretation of these cards. But that's only going to be for some of you, because not every Cancer in the world is going to pick themselves up and move. And for not every Cancer in the world is that going to be a defining moment in their existence. However, the theme of some kind of big energy coming in here, shaking you loose and shaking you free, which enables you to follow, to wander, to amble, to explore, follow your dreams, follow your heart, actually was what I was going to say there. Devoid of the things that have been restrictive, and particularly for you, emotionally restrictive in the past. Like, this is happening right now. Tell me about this Tower and this Fool, please. Wow, we've got the Hanged Man. And the High Priestess. Now, this is really interesting. Double Pisces, right? That's your sister water sign here. And really interesting because here they are over here in the reverse as well. Now, the one thing that these two cards have in common, beyond the fact that for me they both represent Pisces, is the idea that there's stasis. Both of these cards are passive, so much so that they are the two most passive cards in the tarot. They're about acceptance. They're about seeing things from different perspectives. But right across the board, what we see is an absolute lack of movement. We have that point of stillness. We have great intuition, spiritual enlightenment coming in here. And actually, the Tower and the High Priestess combined are generally two cards that I expect to see when there's some sort of big spiritual leap in terms of one's evolution. I hesitate to use the word spiritual download because it fucking makes me ill. And I can't even explain why. I just don't like the phrase. An insight seems just a little bit too discreet. I mean, we're talking about a big kind of like spiritual boom, right? That could feel like an ascension of sorts, but is certainly like a moment of extreme clarity that seems to have come from a place that is metaphysical rather than is simply reactive to something that's happened in our material world, right? And so maybe it is that something happens here that is shaking you loose, and what you can see from that, because of your enlightened state where you are now, is how there is an underlying order to the universe, right? How there's clearly a plan for you, and you just being released in order to pursue that in some sort of meaningful way. Now, again, bear in mind that these talk about stasis. This does not, this does not, this does not, and these do not. So it's saying, Cancer, something this month, and you may have already experienced it, or it might be, a couple of weeks off yet. Something this month is changing everything for you, such that, what has kept you static at a point of time where you've been, I was in here digging around, looking for the answers, looking for the wisdom and all that kind of thing, right? And having resolved now to do something about it, so your external world reflects your internal world in some sort of way. The time for stasis is done. That's what I want to say here. From now, it's all about change and movement and going after the things that you want, right? Now, in October, this energy seems to be the defining one for you, and it's Mars in Leo. It's the Seven of Wands. Now, the way that we normally talk about this is in terms of it being a defensive or guarded energy, right? Sometimes that can be very protective. It's an energy that sees us, either, depending on the situation and the context and whatnot, either has us attempting to take the higher ground and fighting as a, from a point of principle. I will defend this thing, I will protect this thing because it's the honourable thing to do. Or conversely, coming from a very defensive state of, oh my God, I'm under attack, I fucking hate this, right? These generally are the two most obvious interpretations of these cards. But I like what we've got going on here, which is these wands, partially externally expressed, right? And we've got 6 wands on the sides here. And the energy is going outwards rather than being all like, oh fuck, I have to fight things, right? The energy is going outwards. There's an outward expression of this. But then that last wand is turning around to look at itself. And there's something so self-aware about this expression of the Seven of Wands. And it feels like you are plucking yourself out of a situation. I'm struggling to find the words to explain this. Bear with me. It's like you've been looking at yourself, Cancer. Now, we often see the similar sort of energy or a similar expression of this energy when we talk about the Chariot, which is your card, right? And we talk about balancing and, self-awareness and all those kind of things, right? This grand act of getting everything aligned. But that is major arcana energy, right? That's something that's kind of thrown at you rather than something that you yourself on a day-to-day level bring in, although we would hope that that would be the response to this major arcana card. This is minor arcana, which says that this is having its expression in the things that you can control day to day. And I think that the way that this central wand is almost like a caduceus, and these 2 snakes, which are symbols of wisdom in and of themselves, are looking at themselves. It's like realizing that everything that you are is a reflection of everything that is around you, and vice versa. So there's no need to fight anything. There is just simply a need to empower and move forwards, right? Then that's to say, empower yourself and move forwards. But the reason why this is significant is because, and the cards themselves are not saying this, but this is the gap that I feel like they're leaving in what they're saying is, this month there seems to be some sort of event, some set of circumstances which would normally have resulted in a particular default reaction from you. And that's the important word, right? Reaction. Something that is, if you will, of the old. I'm sorry if I'm fucking with myself. There are 2 flies in here and I'm getting fucking dive bombed, right? I'm just trying to keep them off my hair because they're sitting there just drives me bonkers. Anyway, I feel like the gap that is showing up in between these cards, maybe that's that there, right? There's something happening this month which ordinarily would draw a particular default reaction from you. It would be a representation of a cycle that you're trying to leave behind. Because it's you, Cancer, and because of these cards that I'm seeing here, it's something that would normally catch you in the feels, right? Now, whether this would be, something relatively codependent feeling, possible, whether it's somebody being emotionally manipulative, whether it's kind of like understanding that you're being emotionally manipulated but feeling relatively powerless to do anything about it. Something of that nature seems to be kicking off this month, and you quite simply just do not appear to me to be ready to be involved in that or drawn into that in any kind of meaningful way. Now, this isn't just well done, you're avoiding the drama this month, Cancer. It's about what's going on deeper that's important here. Because being so emotionally attuned to other people is a blessing and a curse. And when you can see things happening, sometimes, you can empathize so hard that there's a feeling of being stuck and being trapped in a default response to this, and that's not happening this month. To all intents and purposes, actually, when we're seeing it here, you see this for what it is, and you refuse to be drawn into it. You refuse to accept it. You refuse to be hauled in. Equally, it seems to be the motivating thing for you to make good on all of this energy that's happening over here. Tell me about this 3 of Swords reversed. Right, we've got the 4 of Wands, which is locating it, in your foundation, and so one might assume possibly around the home. And that's not just your, the building that you call home. I mean, that's the people that are in your home too. There's the Fool and the Page of Wands, and the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck. Whether there's an opportunity in the chaos that comes after, right? Because you don't have a 4 of Wands falling over onto its side without it being in danger of a full disintegration. But it's like there are cracks appearing. There's something going on here. It's not looking good. For the structural integrity of the 4 of Wands, and certainly putting in the possibility of the experience of the 3 of Wands. But here's the thing, it's the choice, Cancer. When we talk about water, and when we're talking about passive water specifically, it just goes where it will, right? It's not necessarily a conscious action, it's a flow. And you have found yourself at times being yoked, right, by the flow into performing to a certain set of criteria that people seem to expect from you. I haven't worded that very well, but that'll do, right? Default responses. This is how you're valuable. This is what you do. This is what, X, Y, and Z. And it feels to me like you're severing those ties. Now, the sum of all of these cards and the sum of the energies that are showing up in these cards is such that the universe seems to be bringing things to a point of crisis. But this crisis doesn't actually involve you, right? And you seem to see that clearly for the very first time in your life. And because you are actively choosing to follow a path that is more enlightened, utilizing everything that you know and that you've learned. The realization that this is entirely optional and you are not required to go participate in it seems to be the thing that is setting you free, and it really is entrenching this double judgment of movement in a different direction altogether. It's like, well, I was kind of ready to make big life-changing decisions over here, but I was looking for the right way to do it. This here is the universe recognizing your energies, recognizing your intent, recognizing how things have changed, and pushing everything to a point to show you that you can control your emotions and you can control your responses, and that whatever it is that you want, you are actually free to go after that without needing to attend to the wounds and tears and brokenheartedness of a situation that feels kinda manipulative. And in that seeing of this situation, in recognizing it for what it is, like, you're almost catapulted away from that situation. This is a huge emotional power up for you. This is really, really interesting. But it's freeing you. And perhaps it's freeing you from a situation that you did not realize was quite as restrictive and quite as yoking as you thought it was. This is really, really interesting, Cancer. I'm going to go over to the extended now, and we're going to dig into this a little bit more. I want to specifically look at this here. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Circle, you can do that on Vimeo. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If not, no shade at all. It's just like, there's a big power up coming your way, and it feels like it's coming in a way that you don't expect. It feels like it has repercussions that you don't expect, but these feel very, very good for you. Very, very good. So, I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.